These pencils are great. I'm pretty sure the other side of the page is just going to be like absolutely decimated when we get there. Uh, okay, I suppose it's probably time to start making teeth. Pretty sure that's way, way bigger than it needs to be. But hey, this is my drawing. Maybe I want a dinosaur that can't close his mouth. Okay, let's skinny out these teeth now. There we go. That's not terrible. And yeah, let's get kind of the roof of the mouth here. And dinosaurs are just cool. They'll never stop being cool. The more we learn about them, the cooler they get. Like, what an awesome thing. I mean, I still feel like I learn new things about dinosaurs all the time. And I suppose part of that's like we as humans are still discovering tons of things about dinosaurs. When I was a kid, I felt like, like most of us do, I suppose, that like, oh yeah, like all this knowledge exists. I just need to get older and learn it. And you realize that like, no, it doesn't exist. There's still a ton to learn, for us as humanity, let alone, just like you as an individual. There's just so much to learn. And we have so little knowledge about dinosaurs. We're still figuring it out. And a lot of the things that we call dinosaurs aren't dinosaurs, but that's probably a conversation for another time. Something that occurred to me that's kind of funny about dinosaurs and dinosaur discoveries in the past year is the fact that, like, how do they know how big a dinosaur is? Because when you find a skeleton, it's not always particularly easy to know, like, was this a juvenile? Was this an adult? Was this a normal specimen? And I know that, biologists and paleontologists have ways of doing that, but that was just one of those things that like hadn't occurred to me. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense that would be a potentially difficult thing to figure out. But it is conceivable, right, that you could like find the first 24 T-Rexes that you found were all juveniles, and you learn, oh goodness, like these things were way bigger than we thought they were. And I imagine that has happened. I know that some dinosaurs that were widely accepted as having existed and being real when I was a kid, they figured out, oh, that's not true. That's not really a separate dinosaur. We accidentally combined body parts or something like that. I don't remember if it was the Brontosaurus or Diplodocus or something like that, but it was one of those pretty like standard normal ones that in the last 20 years or so they figured out, like, oh, that wasn't actually a separate animal. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I remember that being kind of a big deal Like, oh, that's doesn't exist. Which, again, when you're just like a common person looking at it, that's gotta seem so weird. But if you know even the faintest piece of information about what paleontologists have to do in order to try to figure out what existed, like, it's so difficult. Of course mistakes are made sometimes. Of course mistakes are made. That's just science. You examine the pieces of reality that you have access to, and then you hypothesize based on those, and you're gonna be wrong. A lot of the time. And as time goes on, we as a human race hopefully become more and more trustworthy and reliable as far as our scientific discoveries go, right? Because every time that science comes up with something that isn't correct, it's now something that science knows that isn't correct. And so now you have a better chance of figuring out what reality is. That's really exciting to me. It's exciting that there's still so many things yet to learn, so many things yet to discover. That's part of what makes art so rewarding, is that there's always things to learn. There's always new stuff to discover. If you enjoy art history, that realm is always expanding, even though it feels like it shouldn't, because how could we possibly learn more about that which has already happened? But no, there's lots and lots and lots of things that we don't know. Lots and lots of things that keep getting uncovered. I mean, probably most of the art of the past is gone, and gone forever. We just have had too many cataclysms in our species' history. And we've had too many times where, a new religious doctrine has taken over and at some point or another has ordered the dismantling or the destruction of the art of the prior religion, the art of the prior era. They call it iconoclasm. Or at least that's one word for it, used when in the aftermath of Constantine, I think it was Constantinople that occurred in. I can look that up. I might look it up. I might not. I might just wait for you guys to correct me. But the iconoclasm period was basically a period where they destroyed the icons, visual representations of saints and religious figures. And humanity has done that a lot of times. We've done that a lot of times, where we've some race or group or civilization has taken over and have destroyed or developed a new manifesto for the icons, the art, the symbolism of things that preceded. So we lose things. If you ever want to feel really depressed, go look up all of the lost texts in the world. All these books that we know were written at some point, but we no longer have access to. Look at what was potentially lost in the burning of the Library of Alexandria. And we as humans we've lost so much. You don't have to be much of a conspiracy theorist to realize that with how long humanity has existed, there's a tremendous quantity of information that has been lost. To the point where it's hard for many people to even agree how long humanity has existed. And again, those kind of questions are just wonderful testaments to curiosity. There's still so much to do and so much that we can learn. And it feels so exciting. And I'm sure to some people it feels very, very daunting. Because the idea that we can't know definitively in so many categories is kind of scary. We want answers. And sometimes in our haste to discover answers, we accept things that are not true. Or develop our own truths. And that can be dangerous. Understandable. Logical, to some degree. But dangerous. Like, did this kind of dinosaur exist? I think so. Considering time travel is basically an impossibility, I guess we'll never know definitively, but again, science will just keep letting us in on little snippets of what came before. Man, the conversations today have taken some weird changes. Conversations in my own brain. All the random stuff that just exists in my head. I would say rent-free, but I think sometimes I do pay the rent for it. Especially when I need to go to sleep and it's really late and my brain just won't shut off because it's like, now you need to know more about this topic. Some scientists think octopus came from space. Are you going to let that one slide? Are you just going to sit here knowing that there's research out there? Or even if there's no research, there's still just semi-intelligent people that have made some claims and you don't know them yet? And that would be why my rambles are so awkward. It's got too many things that I'm casually interested in. This guy is going to take a while. That sound that it makes kind of always sits on the precipice of running shivers down my spine and being pleasurable. My studio is so dirty right now. I wish that it was clean, but I have a tendency to get it clean and then immediately get into a project of some kind, and then it just stays dirty. I also want a bigger studio. I feel like that's all of us, though. And some of you I'm probably going to get no sympathy from some of you who are, confined to working on a dining room table or something. Or do all your digital art on an iPad. And just hope you can have a desk. I'm really, really fortunate that I have a room in the house dedicated to making art. And yet, Even so, I've been doing a lot of art upstairs on the dining room table because the space is better. Right now I'm kind of stuck in a corner. And that's not terrible, but it ain't great either. I really would like to have some more space to stretch my arms. Right now where my chair is, I am running into the corner and a bookshelf, and part of the chair is accidentally driving over top of dice from playing D&D and Pathfinder on the floor, and the camera's hooked into the wall here, so there's cords just dangling, and first world problems, but I think I might finally do a studio tour. And I think it would be only fair to show how dirty things get. So I think what I'll do is I'll film that part first. And then follow it up with... Then I'll clean the studio, so I don't feel like a absolute slob. And then I can show you kind of what it looks like, what it's supposed to look like, and almost never does. I'm not a total slob. I just have a tendency to get out the things that I need to work on, and then work on them, and then not put them back. And that's how I end up with like 7 sketchbooks on the floor, and brush pens on the floor from when I went to Ohio last. And routinely find extra mugs or thermoses and stuff in here from several sessions ago of whatever I'm working on. Just how it goes. I feel like this is the most dedicated I have ever been to actually using the paper towel to block my smudgings. And it's working, but it's daunting because if for a moment you lose focus and you don't use it, you could totally mess things up. But I guess that's why, drawings like this can be all the more impressive when they're finished, and finished really well. Because it means that somebody was either lucky enough, fortunate enough, or dedicated enough to get through the whole thing without making a catastrophic blunder. I'm having fun though. And that's part of it. Wonder what makes the fun involved in art different than the fun of like video games. I think most people would agree that art is a more productive hobby than video games, for example. And while I think that that's not categorically true, I think that if you spent 30 hours in a week playing video games versus 30 hours in a week making art, like one of those is definitively more productive. And I played a bit of video games, obviously, but I think the goal is always to have more productive hours in a week than video game hours. But I wonder what's different about those kinds of fun. If I spend a whole day making art, like when I go to sleep at night, I feel good about myself. If I spend a whole day playing video games, I kind of feel like I wasted my time. Did I waste my time? Is it just a societal norm? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that, doing things for downtime is good. But downtime, at least for me, has to be earned. And I earn that by being productive. If I've gotten a lot of artwork done, gotten a bunch of scripts, done a lot of cleaning, organizing, whatever it might be, I feel like I reward myself with video games. I reward myself with sitting down and doing nothing for a few minutes, and I think that's really important and really valuable. But again, I guess it's really more of like I feel like if I do that without having earned it, I don't deserve it. And I don't feel as good about it. I feel better about everything when I'm productive. I feel better about my life. I feel better about my soul. I feel better about my hard work, my successes, my failures. I feel better taking downtime. I think it's kind of a fundamental human thing, and I've run into a lot of people in my life that are, enduring miserable periods, and sometimes when you really get to the end of it, they don't feel like they have purpose. And while work is not like your sole purpose as a human being, it certainly is a component. That doesn't have to be your job. In fact, for a lot of people nowadays, it really, really isn't. But some manner of work. And that work for you might be taking care of your kids. That work for you might be taking care of your parents. That work for you might be checking in on your neighbors or walking the dogs, or it might be a job. It might be doing your schoolwork. But it seems like we as humans deal better with everything when we've got some sense of purpose. And art is a lovely purpose. The need, the desire to make things, to share things with others, to give someone else a spike of joy in their daily life because they saw the thing that you produced. And that's also just immensely satisfying. The satisfaction of making something that someone else finds beautiful is just like magical. Really, like, magical. It might even be slightly addictive. You might find yourself being art curious, trying things out, and then realizing, like, oh my goodness, like the compliments that I get, and not like that you need the compliments, but just realizing that something that you are capable of making can be found as beautiful, can be of service to another human being through that beauty. So I think our days are indisputably better when they have beauty in them. I think that's, for a lot of us, that's the desire. You know, if you have stories that you want to tell, like, why do you want to tell them? It's not just egotistical that you need to get them off your chest. It's that you want to share these stories with other people. You want the satisfaction of other people being able to hear the things that you have to say, hear the things that your characters have to say. It's not just the pride and the ego in it. There's something more primal. You have something to share, and something that you feel would benefit humanity, and if you can get it out, then humanity may be better for it. There's something selfless and selfish about art. You know, I imagine the people who build these massive video games and these massive stories and TV shows and Netflix, you know, things. A lot of times I think it's just they have something to share, something that's cool that they came up with. And the money is beneficial because it allows them to keep doing it. But I really think for most creatives like that, like the money was never the goal at the heart of it. Like the money is a byproduct, and a product that is enjoyed and beneficial, but a product that just kind of allows for the continuation of the craft. There's joy to be found in art. And a different kind of joy, perhaps. So maybe that's the fun. The fun of it is that you get to share things. You get to bring things to the public in a different way. You get the potential, the exhilaration of the risk. Because every time you make art, you're taking risk. A risk of failing, a risk of it not landing with somebody, a risk of the piece not selling, not a lot of people liking it, people not clicking on your video, whatever it might be. There's always risk involved. At the most basic level, the risk is just simply that it'll be terrible. And you know what? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is terrible. I listen to a lot of kind of documentaries and art commentary stuff, and there are certainly a lot of people in that sphere that would say that there is no terrible art, that you can't evaluate art, that it's so different from person to person to person. And yes, of course there's some truth in that, but I think that you do sometimes make terrible art. And maybe it's terrible because it's not what you wanted it to be. It's not what you anticipated. And sometimes it's terrible because it is holding thoughts and feelings and emotions that you are no longer comfortable with, that you don't like. Maybe it makes you feel a way that you don't like. And sometimes like things just don't turn out well, and they become fodder for the next thing. And I think that's okay too. I think it's okay to just admit that sometimes a piece isn't going to turn out the way you want it. Don't be too hard on yourself about it. And this is what I tell myself as well, because, I'm pretty lucky if 2/3 of my pieces end up being things that I'm happy with. And I had to think about that fraction for just a second, because it has improved. And I don't, we do a bad job as artists a lot of time reminding ourselves of like where we've come from and how we've improved. And I remember a long time ago, like it was less than half of any art I produced I was okay with, and not even like happy with, just okay with. And it really is nowadays, it's about 2/3, it's about 2/3 of the work that I do. I'm like, cool. Like this is satisfactory, for this moment. And that's a dramatic improvement from where things were 5 years ago. That is not to say in any way, shape, or form that I'm content with where my progress is. Like I still have lots of growth and lots of improvement to make. But it is change. It is progress. It is growth. And it needs to be acknowledged. It needs to be understood. Keep that in mind. Be gracious with yourself about your art progress too, because It's a long journey. And in a lot of very trite, stereotypical sayings, people talk about focusing on the journey versus the destination. And in art, they're both necessary, and I've talked about that before. But also, you just have to find a way to deal with the journey, because the journey is long and it's going to be hard. And there are mythical unicorn people out there who can just enjoy the whole journey, and I'm envious because I'm way too over analytical, and I get really bogged down on the individual destinations that I exist in, and often I'm not satisfied with the destination that I have at the moment. But it's critical to just find joy in the little scritchy scratch of the pencil. It's important to find joy in the process of finding references, of finding new cool things, of reading art books, of listening to people like me ramble about their art. It's important, very important, to find joy along the entire journey, because the journey is going to be long, and it's worth it. It's very much worth it. But it's hard. There isn't a lot of easy. So embrace the fun. Embrace the joy. Embrace all the pieces that you can embrace. And embrace them whenever you can, because there's going to be moments where you can't. Where it's too much. Got to figure out how to finish this neck. I think maybe I'll just shade the whole thing in with the white, and then we'll work on differentiating tones in a minute. But even this drawing, which has gone pretty well, reasonably well the whole time. I haven't made any catastrophic mistakes. The proportions are pretty reasonable. I'm working from reference, and not taking a whole lot of liberties, but some, and trying just as I work through it to understand and learn, how certain things come together. Particularly these vein bits down here are something that I feel will benefit me when I work on smooth skins and flaps of skins in the future, because these actually look reasonably okay, and they weren't really difficult to do. I'm going to have to spend some time thinking about them, because obviously each of them represent a flap of skin that is coming down and is catching the light in some way. And most of the ones I did here were just making up a shape. Let's see if this shape works. And I think that's pretty common. I think it's pretty normal to mimic something before you actually understand what's going on with it. And that makes sense. It's really hard to understand all of the individual facets of what's happening. If you guys are still listening, I applaud you. It's been a long drawing, long sketch. But it's been fun. I love dinosaurs. I love critters, and I want to keep doing more of these, and I want to learn how to make my own. I want to get to the point where I can sit down and I can do something like this entirely from my head. And sometimes I can. I've done batches of that have worked out well. But I always feel so, it feels so unreliable. Well, it worked this time. I'm not sure it'll work next time. And maybe that's just me being too hard on myself. Hard to know. Man, we are just so hard on ourselves. Feel like in some regards, art students and art classes and like a professional level should all come with some high recommendation of therapy and counseling because we're all so hard on ourselves and most of it's like not warranted. Sure, some of it is, but most of it probably not. I found myself really wanting like a mid-tone chalk or charcoal to do this. Actually, I probably could use chalk, but I'm not going to. I'm also really curious to see how much this smudges when I close the page of the sketchbook. I wonder if I have spray fixative that I could use. Might not be a bad idea if I have some. Definitely make the studio stink. That's good for today. Thank you for hanging out, for listening to my rambles, for paying attention. There's a lot of random stuff today, but I appreciate you guys. If you're enjoying these, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd love to hear in the comments down below what you worked on while you were listening to me. Hopefully you were working on something. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good one, y'all. See you soon.